Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. Day 2 joint practice, and guess what? The New York Giants and the Detroit Lions fought again. They fought yesterday, was a fiery practice. Today was fiery too. And they actually, you know what? In the beginning of the practice, early parts of practice, there was no fights. And we actually got through a decent amount of practice before we saw the first fight. And to me, I appreciate that. The coaches talked about that earlier today when they're at the podium prior to practice, wanting to clean things up, and talk to their players about the fights. But again, we still saw fights in this practice. And yes, it was a big fight between Malik Neighbors, and guys held their own. But before we get into today's practice, let's rewind it back. Let's keep to the format, and let's talk about everything prior to practice today. So first off, I want to talk about the injuries. Manhurts, a tight end Manhurts went out early yesterday. Came back today, fine. Practice. Dennis Houston and the new signee Christian Holmes were out today. Dennis Houston had a hand injury. Christian Holmes undisclosed right now. Again, we waived Ja'Shawn Corbin. We picked up Christian Holmes, and Holmes is already on the injury report. There were no changes for John Michael Schmitz. Still the shoulder. Cager, still the hamstring. We need to get these guys back, Schmitz especially. And then on the Lions side, just running down their injury list, we have linebacker Mike Rodriguez, guard Kevin Zeitler, cornerback Terrion Arnold actually cleared concussion protocol and did practice today. We remember he was the one that got hit by Andrew Thomas when he was pulling. Cornerback Emmanuel Mosley had a pectoral injury yesterday, and then Melifon was also out today, undisclosed injury. So those are the injuries. Coaches were at the podium. Dable was at the podium. Campbell was at the podium. I got a little bit of talking points from them as well. Dable said, despite the fights yesterday, it was a very productive practice. Players were competitive. But he did want to clean up some of the things, that led to the fights. So, of course, you can't be fighting that much. You want a good, clean practice. You want guys not to be injured unnecessarily. So you want to keep it clean as possible. But he also said he loved the mindset, that we had the right mindset. That is a tough Detroit Lions team. Everybody believes that the New York Giants don't have an identity. But one thing that we do know now is that the New York Giants are, in fact, a tough team. Violent team, and I love it. Gritty, like New York is supposed to be. He did also talk about Mike Kafka, and I guess his role going once the game started. He does expect Mike Kafka to be up in the booth. Mike Kafka was up in the booth last year, and a year before that, he did call the plays from in the booth. But we already know that Brian Dable, 99% sure he's going to be calling plays this year, and he still has Mike Kafka up there in the booth to give him, that bird's eye view. He also told Daniel Jones, said, Daniel Jones, stay out of the fights. He asked Daniel Jones why you jumped into that fight. Daniel Jones kept it real. He said, I saw my guy on the ground and I jumped in. And I respect that. But Daniel Jones, we need you to stay out of these fights, especially the way you've been throwing Neighbors the ball. We need you healthy, and we need you out there throwing the ball to Neighbors and everybody else on this team. All right. He also talked about the running backs and the young running back room, and basically all these guys outside of Devin Singletary. The preseason is going to be very, very important for these guys. Eric Gray, Tyrone Tracy, Dante Miller. Preseason is very, very important. I think they still need to figure out exactly how this running back by committee thing is going to work. Who goes where? What's the order? Who gets the reps out of Devin Singletary? How are they going to be used? And preseason is going to play a big role in how these guys are going to be used. He also talked about Neighbors, love this competitiveness, practices very hard, practices like he plays, and that's something that he appreciates from Neighbors. Smart guy, picking up the offense very well. Another roster thing that he mentioned was McKenzie versus Gunnar Olszewski. These guys are competing for the punt return spot, and competing for the possible fifth to sixth wide receiver on the roster. And my ears perked up when I saw that, read that, and one of the discussions a lot of Giants fans have been having, especially in the spaces, is how many wide receivers the New York Giants are going to keep And in my opinion, the Giants keep 6. I don't think they need an extra 7. These guys are pretty much weeding themselves out, whether it's the play or injuries out there. But I think that 6 wide receivers is good. Maybe you keep another 2 or 3 on the practice squad. But I think it's pretty much set. After the top 4 guys, it's going to be Hodgins, in my opinion, and then most likely the winner of the punt return job after that. So Campbell was at the podium as well. He also talked about the practice yesterday and that players need to have composure. Doesn't like the way that the fights mess up the flow of practice. And, it's a big waste of time when you're having to break up fights when you can have way more productive reps in that time that you're wasting. He did he did say that it was a spirited practice. Obviously, nobody backed down. It was a tough team versus another tough team. Love that. He did say that him and Dable spoke after yesterday's practice and talked about how they can clean this thing up to reduce the fights. But did it work? Absolutely not. It worked out in the beginning. In the beginning of practice today, it worked out because it was pretty smooth practice, no fights. But at the end, it got chippy, it got rough, and guys started fighting again. But Campbell also said that Jared Goff will not be playing in the preseason game on Thursday, along with some other starters that won't be playing on Thursday. He didn't clarify who those other guys were at this time, but Goff is definitely not going to be playing against the Giants on Thursday. I don't blame him. The way that his offensive line has been looking against our defensive line, I wouldn't want to put him out there right away either. And guess what? That's a good offensive line that the Detroit Lions have, and for our front to get the kind of pressure that they've been getting, I'm loving it. I'm happy for this defense. I'm excited for this defense. And guess what? I'm starting to get expectations again. So let's get into these practice notes. And guess what? I mean, there was some good today. There was some bad today on both sides of the ball for both teams. There were some highlights. I'll talk about a couple of the highlights here. But again, I just think the vibe of this joint practice was fantastic. The Giants needed that. The fan base needed to see this team behave the way that they did to give us a little bit more juice going into the season. And I love everything that happened. So let me just get into these practice notes. So the offensive line versus the defensive line, the trenches, good reps. Good reps just like yesterday. We saw Brian Burns be Brian Burns, showed off his speed, showed off his spin move, his agility, was quick to get to the quarterback in both individual drills and also team drills. He is exactly what we thought he was going to be, at least in practice so far. We'll see what happens in the games, but I think he's absolutely what we thought he was going to be. Dexter Lawrence is Dexter Lawrence, dominant strength. Nobody's really going to be able to mess with him a lot in the interior, and he is, what he is. Kayvon Thibodeau also had a good day today. Individual drills, I would say that Penei Sewell won more the individual drills, but when they got into the team drills, Kayvon Thibodeau had a couple of sacks, or would-be sacks today as well, beating Penei Sewell. And Tibbs talked about it after practice, the comparison between him and Burns. So Burns is quick and has that agility, and that Tibbs likes to work a lot off of the power and then using his reach as an advantage and working off of that. And again, they're not the same player. They don't have the same build. They might be the same height, but these guys are two different type of edges, and I love it. I think they complement each other, and with Dexter Lawrence in the middle, these guys should be able to eat. Another guy I want to talk about is Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons in this Shane Bowen scheme could be special. It could be something to get excited about because he's shown his versatility. And exactly what Shane Bowen said, we're going to use him as a nickel. We're going to use him as a linebacker in sub packages. We've been seeing this, and he's been thriving. We've seen him cover slot wide receivers. We've seen him, get sent on blitzes and get to the quarterback. Today he had, I believe it was 2 would-be sacks. Yesterday he had a tackle for a loss. He's getting out in coverage and getting some pass deflections, showing his versatility. I love it. And guess what? I don't know how they're going to do the linebacker spots. Obviously, Bobby Okereke is the Mike linebacker, but how much sub packaging are we going to be doing? And how often is Isaiah Simmons going to be used? Is he going to be there for all 3 downs? Possibly. We don't know for sure, but I like the option of having Isaiah Simmons as almost like a change of pace linebacker. for the Giants. Nick McLeod ran at CB2, ran with the ones today at CB2. There was no issue with Fly. Fly is healthy. People saw him on the sideline, said he looked like he wasn't injured. It's just that McLeod got a lot of snaps with the first team today and also made some plays, had a nice pass deflection today as well. Dane Belton still running with the ones as well. We don't see a change there happen unless something spectacular happens with Newbin, but Belton is holding on to that job right now and also making some plays. He had a nice pass deflection in the end zone today during 7-on-7s. So again, that's a tight competition right there. Actually, I don't even think it's a tight competition because it's pretty much Belton's job to lose, and we heard Shane Bowen say as much. On the offensive side, let's talk about this offense a little bit, and then we're going to get out of here. So on the offensive side, this Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors connection is something very real. It's very real. Malik Neighbors is doing exactly what a lot of people didn't want to put the pressure on him to do. And he is, in my opinion, right now, with the timing and getting the ball out, he is letting Daniel Jones, or I should say, Daniel Jones is looks like he's being more free with the ball. Like he's 2-step, 3-step, and getting that ball out there. And the target has been Malik Neighbors like 75% of the time, especially the last two practices. I think it was a crazy stat going on that, he was targeted. I think he was 6 for 6 yesterday in practice, 6 targets, 6 catches from Malik Neighbors. Today, it was something wild, like he was 7 for 7 at the beginning of practice, 7 targets, 7 catches. He did get a touchdown in the game. It would have been another touchdown. I think that might have been the only pass that he didn't catch, and that was the issue right after that play. That's when that fight occurred between Malik Neighbors and Kirby Joseph, and these guys were throwing punches. And throwing punches. We saw Theo Johnson get into a little shoving match with Aiden Hutchinson. I'm loving it. All over the field, the New York Giants are showing their aggressiveness, and the rookies are playing a big role in that. Even down to the cornerback Andrew Phillips showing his aggressiveness as well. And guess what, man? New York Giants football, and I hate to get excited about it, but New York Giants football is feeling like it's back. Not just back to like the 2022 New York Giants where, we win some games, ball bounces our way type. I'm just talking about the atmosphere, the energy, the grittiness on defense, the toughness on defense. That's the feeling that I'm getting from these New York Giants. I didn't want to say it in training camp before the Detroit Lions got here because I wanted to see this team go against another team and another good team in the Detroit Lions, and we matched their energy with the aggressiveness, and also the connection between Daniel Jones and the wide receivers they didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a beat, and I'm not saying that everything was good, but just saying I didn't see a lot of bad either, and I like the direction that this team is going right now as far as practice goes. We'll see what happens in the preseason games, moving forward. But that's going to be the wrap up today about, day 2 training camp. Day 2 joint practice with the Detroit Lions. I believe the New York Giants are off tomorrow, and we do have our first preseason game on Thursday. Fantastic. I think it's only 2 games on Thursday. I don't think they're airing our game because the other team, I think it's the Bears, not 100% sure, but the other team has the NFL Network slot. If you do have NFL.com, NFL Plus, you should be able to get all of the preseason games, just like we've always been able to do that. So you'll be able to still watch this game. But all in all, loving what I saw today in practice, loving what I've read today, and shout out again to all the beat writers. Shout out to the Giants content creators that are in the building. Shout out to the everyday people that were also there putting up clips of practice. Man, it's a lot of y'all out there. You guys know who you are. You guys rock with me on Twitter. Salute to you guys as well. Don't want to start saying names because I'm bound to forget some people. So I'm just going to say salute to everybody out there, and that's going to be the video. So I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.